Captain Elena Vasquez stared at the main screen of the UES Prometheus. What she saw made her stomach turn cold. The ship's computers had detected something huge in the darkness of space. But this was not what anyone expected to find. Dr. Chen, you need to see this, Elena called to the ship's science officer. Dr. Marcus Chen floated over in the zero gravity of the ship's bridge. His eyes went wide when he saw the display. My God, how many ships are out there? The answer came from Lieutenant Sarah Kim at the sensor station. Computer estimates at least 10,000 vessels, Captain. Maybe more. The field stretches for several light years. Elena had been in space for 20 years. She had seen asteroid fields, nebulae, and the wreckage from old Earth wars. But she had never seen anything like this. Thousands of alien ships floated dead in the black void. Some were as small as Earth fighters. Others were massive, bigger than entire cities. All dead? Elena asked. All dead, Sarah confirmed. No power signatures, no life signs, no radio signals, nothing. The Prometheus was humanity's first deep space exploration ship. Their mission was simple: go farther than any human had gone before and see what was out there. The United Earth government wanted to know if humans were alone in the universe. Now they had their answer. They were not alone, but everyone else seemed to be dead. Take us in slowly, Elena ordered. Full scans of everything. I want to know what happened here. The Prometheus moved carefully through the graveyard of ships. Elena watched the screen as they passed vessels of shapes and designs that no human mind had ever imagined. Some looked like giant insects made of metal. Others were smooth and curved like sea creatures. A few had strange crystals growing from their hulls. Dr. Chen worked at his station analyzing the data from their scans. Captain, these ships are from different species. I count at least 30 different design types. The technology levels vary widely too. Some of these ships are incredibly advanced. Others are more primitive than our own vessels. How long have they been here? Elena asked. Chen checked his readings. That's the strange part. Some of these wrecks are thousands of years old, but others... Captain, some of these ships were destroyed only decades ago. Elena felt a chill run down her spine. You mean whatever did this is still active? It appears so. She turned to her communications officer. Rodriguez, any distress signals? Any automated beacons? Chief Engineer James Rodriguez shook his head. Nothing, Captain. Complete radio silence. It's like they all just stopped. Elena made a decision. We're going aboard one of these ships. Chen, pick one that looks intact enough to explore safely. Chen studied his sensors. There's a large vessel about 2 kilometers ahead. The hull appears stable. No radiation leaks detected. The Prometheus docked with the alien ship using mechanical clamps. Elena led a small team through the airlock wearing full environmental suits. The artificial gravity was still working on the alien vessel, though the air was thin and cold. The inside of the ship was eerily quiet. Emergency lights cast red shadows on the walls. The corridors were built for beings much taller than humans. Strange symbols covered the walls, and the air had a metallic smell. Look at this, Chen said, kneeling beside what looked like a control panel. These systems are incredibly sophisticated. This civilization was far more advanced than us. Elena examined the walls around them. Deep gouges ran along the metal surfaces. The cuts were too regular to be accidental damage. They looked almost like claw marks, but they were enormous. Whatever made them was much larger than any Earth animal. Rodriguez, what's your reading on these marks? Rodriguez ran his scanner over the gouges. Energy burns, Captain. But not from any weapon I recognize. The metal didn't melt. It was carved, and there's something else. These readings show some kind of biological signature in the cuts. The team moved deeper into the ship. They found what looked like a command center. Banks of dark screens surrounded chairs that were clearly built for non-human bodies, but there were no bodies anywhere. Where is everyone? Asked Lieutenant Kim. Chen was studying his scanner with a confused expression. According to these readings, there should be organic matter here. Clothing, personal items, even bones. But there's nothing. It's like every living thing on this ship just vanished. Elena felt the hair on her neck stand up. Could they have evacuated? No escape pods are missing, Rodriguez reported. And look at this. He pointed to a table where what looked like a meal sat half-finished. A cup was overturned, its contents long since evaporated. They were interrupted in the middle of normal activities. The exploration team spent 6 hours searching the alien ship. They found sleeping quarters, work areas, what might have been recreational spaces. Everything suggested a crew that had been going about their normal business when something terrible happened. But they found no crew members, no bodies, no remains of any kind. Back on the Prometheus, Elena called a meeting of her senior staff. The mood in the conference room was grim. "Report," she said simply. Chen spoke first. "I've analyzed samples from 12 different ships now. The pattern is the same on all of them. Advanced civilization, sudden destruction, no survivors. The weapon signatures are unlike anything in our databases. Could this be some kind of natural phenomenon?" Elena asked. "A plague, maybe? Or radiation from a nearby star?" Chen shook his head. "The damage patterns are too consistent. And there's something else, Captain. I found similar energy traces on ships that are thousands of years apart. Whatever did this has been active for a very long time." Rodriguez had been quiet during the meeting. Now he spoke up. "Captain, I've been analyzing the energy signatures from those claw marks. The readings are disturbing." "How so?" "The energy that made those cuts isn't just destructive. It appears to absorb biological matter. That might explain why there are no bodies. They weren't killed and removed. They were consumed." The room fell silent. Elena stared at the data on her screen. 30 different alien civilizations, all destroyed by the same unknown force. All crews consumed without a trace. "How long ago was the most recent attack?" she asked. Chen checked his notes. "Based on the decay patterns, I estimate the newest wreck is less than 50 years old." Elena stood up and walked to the small window in the conference room. Outside, the graveyard of alien ships stretched as far as the eye could see. Each vessel represented an entire civilization that had reached for the stars, only to meet something horrible in the darkness. "We need to gather as much information as possible," she said finally. "Every piece of technology, every data fragment, every clue about what happened here. And then we need to get this information back to Earth as fast as possible." "You think Earth is in danger?" Kim asked. Elena turned back to face her crew. "I think whatever destroyed these civilizations is still out there. And if it's been hunting spacefaring species for thousands of years, then yes, I think we could be next." She looked back at the alien graveyard floating in the void. Somewhere in that massive field of dead ships were the answers they needed. The question was whether they could find those answers before whatever created this graveyard found them. "Get back to work," Elena ordered. "And everyone stays alert. We're not alone out here, and that might not be a good thing." The crew dispersed to continue their grim work. Elena remained at the window, watching the dead ships drift silently through space. Each one had probably sent out distress calls that no one had answered. Each crew had probably hoped for rescue that never came. She would not let Earth share their fate. 3 days after discovering the graveyard, Chief Engineer Rodriguez made a discovery that changed everything. He had been working around the clock, analyzing the strange energy patterns left on the alien ships. What he found made his blood run cold. "Captain Vasquez, you need to see this immediately," Rodriguez called over the ship's communication system. Elena hurried to the engineering lab where Rodriguez had set up his equipment. Multiple screens showed complex energy readings and wave patterns. Rodriguez looked exhausted but excited in a frightening way. "Tell me what you found," Elena said. Rodriguez pointed to a large display showing energy signatures. "I've been studying the weapon traces from over 50 ships now. The energy that created those claw marks isn't just random destruction. It's organized, purposeful." He switched to another screen. "Look at this. The energy signature shows a pattern that matches theoretical models for bioenergy extraction. Whatever made these marks was literally draining the life force from living beings." Elena stared at the data. "You mean it was feeding on them?" "Not just feeding. Absorbing their life energy completely. That's why there are no bodies, no organic remains. Everything living was converted into pure energy and consumed." Dr. Chen entered the lab, having heard the conversation over the intercom. He looked at Rodriguez's findings with growing horror. "James, are you saying these aliens were killed by some kind of energy vampire?" Rodriguez nodded grimly. "But there's more. I ran a quantum resonance analysis on the energy traces. The attackers aren't just some random predator. They're organized, systematic, and..." He paused, checking his readings again. "They're still active." "What do you mean?" Elena asked. Rodriguez brought up a new display showing a 3-dimensional map of the galaxy. Red dots mark the locations of destroyed civilizations. Based on the age of the wrecks and their positions, I can track the movement pattern of whatever destroyed them. Look at the progression. Elena studied the map. The red dots showed a clear pattern moving through space over thousands of years. The path curved through different sectors of the galaxy in a systematic hunting pattern. "It's moving toward our region of space," she whispered. "At their current rate of movement, they'll reach human space within the next 2 to 3 years," Rodriguez confirmed. Dr. Chen had been studying the same data. His face was pale. "Captain, I need to show you something else. Sarah has been working on translating some of the alien logs we recovered." Lieutenant Kim joined them in the lab, carrying a tablet with her translation work. "I've managed to decode partial records from 7 different species. They all tell the same story." She activated a holographic display showing alien text with human translation scrolling beneath it. "This is from a species called the Velkar. They achieved faster-than-light travel about 800 years ago." The translated text appeared on screen. "The great shadow comes from the void. Ships like living dragons, scales that shine with stolen starlight. They speak only once, surrender or die. No mercy, no prisoners. They take everything." Kim switched to another record. "This is from the Kepler Collective only 50 years ago. The Draconian Armada has arrived at our homeworld. Their ships are not ships, but creatures. They breathe fire that melts our strongest metals. When they speak, the very space around us trembles. They call themselves the Devourers of Worlds." Elena felt sick. "Draconian Armada? They have a name?" "Every surviving log mentions them," Kim continued. "A massive fleet of living ships that look like dragons. They appear without warning in a star system and give every spacefaring civilization the same choice: surrender all life energy willingly or have it taken by force." She showed them another translation. "We tried to fight. Our weapons could not harm them. Their scales absorb energy and make them stronger. When they breathe upon our ships, the metal melts and the crew becomes nothing. Not dead, but nothing. As if they never existed." Rodriguez pulled up his energy analysis again. "That matches what I found. These Draconians don't just kill their victims. They completely consume their life essence. It's the most efficient form of predation imaginable." Dr. Chen was studying the tactical data from the alien logs. According to these records, every civilization that encountered the Draconians was completely destroyed. No survivors, no refugees, no hidden colonies. Total extinction. "How many civilizations?" Elena asked quietly. Kim checked her tablet. "Based on the logs and the ship designs we've cataloged, at least 43 different species over the past 3,000 years. Probably more that we haven't found evidence of yet." Elena walked to the window overlooking the graveyard. 43 entire civilizations, each one probably with billions of individuals, all reduced to floating metal coffins in space. And now this Draconian Armada was heading toward Earth. "Do any of the logs mention successful resistance?" she asked. Kim shook her head. "No successful resistance. But some species tried interesting defensive strategies. The Zephyrians developed energy shields that could deflect the Draconians' life-drain weapons for short periods. The Hegemony created special armor that partially protected their soldiers. What happened to them? They lasted longer than the others. Hours instead of minutes. But the result was the same." Rodriguez was analyzing the tactical data when he made another disturbing discovery. "Captain, I'm reading massive energy signatures moving through the outer rim of the galaxy. The patterns match the Draconian energy signatures from these wrecks." Elena spun around. "You mean they're out there right now?" "The readings are faint because of the distance, but yes. There's a large fleet moving through space about 200 light-years from Earth. Based on their previous hunting pattern and current trajectory, they're heading our way." Dr. Chen was calculating on his tablet. "If they maintain their current speed, they'll reach the Sol system in approximately 24 months. The lab fell silent. Elena looked around at her crew, seeing her own fear reflected in their faces. Humanity had barely achieved faster-than-light travel 50 years ago. They had never encountered hostile aliens. They had no weapons designed to fight living spaceships that could drain the life from their crews. "We need to get this information back to Earth immediately," Elena said. "Full documentation of everything we've found. Technical specifications, tactical analysis, translations of all alien logs." "Captain," Rodriguez said carefully, "even if we warn Earth, what can they do? These Draconians have been conquering the galaxy for thousands of years. They've destroyed civilizations far more advanced than us." Elena turned back to the window, looking out at the silent graveyard. Those civilizations didn't know the Draconians were coming. They had no warning, no time to prepare. "We have 2 years. You think that's enough? Chen asked. Elena was quiet for a long moment. It has to be, because the alternative is joining this graveyard. She turned back to her crew. Rodriguez, I want you to download every piece of technical data from these wrecks. Energy signatures, weapon analysis, shield configurations, everything. Chen, get me complete translations of every alien log we can find. I want to know everything these civilizations tried against the Draconians. What are you planning? Kim asked. Elena looked at the graveyard one more time. I'm planning to give Earth something these other civilizations didn't have. Knowledge. We're going to study every defeat, every failed strategy, every weapon that didn't work. And then we're going to find something that does work. Rodriguez looked skeptical. Captain, if 43 advanced civilizations couldn't stop them, then we'll be the 44th to try, Elena interrupted. And maybe, just maybe, we'll be the first to succeed. She walked toward the door, then stopped and looked back at her crew. Get back to work. We have a galaxy to save. As Elena left the lab, she could hear her crew beginning their urgent work. Time was running out, and somewhere in the darkness of space, an ancient evil was moving toward Earth with the hunger of millennia behind it. The UES Prometheus arrived at Earth after the fastest journey in human history. Captain Elena Vasquez had pushed the ship's engines beyond safe limits, cutting the normal 2-month trip to 6 weeks. Every day saved might mean the difference between preparation and extinction. Elena stood in the council chamber of the United Earth Defense Force headquarters, facing the most powerful people on the planet. Admiral Zhang Wei commanded the defense forces. President Maria Santos represented the civilian government. Dr. James Harrison led Earth's most advanced research facilities. You're asking us to believe that an alien armada of living dragon ships has been conquering the galaxy for thousands of years, President Santos said slowly. And they're coming here next. Elena activated the holographic display showing the graveyard of alien ships. This is what we found. 43 civilizations, all destroyed by the same enemy. The evidence is overwhelming. Admiral Zhang studied the tactical data. He was a military man who understood threat assessment. Show me the weapon analysis again. Dr. Chen, who had accompanied Elena to Earth, brought up the energy signatures. These bioenergy drain weapons can literally consume the life force of any organic being. Our standard energy shields would be useless against them. How long do we have? Zhang asked. Based on their movement pattern, 18 to 20 months, Elena replied. President Santos looked overwhelmed. That's not enough time to build a proper defense. We barely have a dozen military vessels capable of deep space combat. Elena had expected this reaction. Ma'am, with respect, we're not just fighting for our own survival. If we fail, the Draconians will have consumed every intelligent species in the galaxy. We might be the last hope for any form of resistance. Dr. Harrison had been studying the alien technology reports. These civilizations were far more advanced than us. If they couldn't stop this threat, what makes you think we can? Elena and Chen exchanged glances. This was the crucial moment. Because we have something they didn't have, Elena said. We know they're coming. She changed the display to show humanity's current military technology. Every other civilization was caught by surprise. They had to develop countermeasures while under attack. We have months to prepare. Admiral Zhang was studying the failed defensive strategies used by the destroyed civilizations. These energy shields, they worked for a few minutes before being overwhelmed. If we could improve on their design. Dr. Chen stepped forward. Admiral, I found something interesting in the alien logs. 3 civilizations came close to developing effective countermeasures before they were destroyed. They were working on something they called lifelock technology. What does it do? Harrison asked. It prevents bioenergy drain. The weapon literally can't feed on a protected target, but none of them had time to finish the development or mass-produce the technology. Elena brought up the technical specifications. Their research was 70% complete when they were destroyed. Our scientists could finish what they started. President Santos was beginning to understand the scope of what they were proposing. You want to mobilize every resource on Earth, every shipyard, every factory, every research facility? Yes, Elena said simply. And we need to start immediately. Admiral Zhang was already thinking tactically. Our kinetic weapons might be more effective than energy-based systems. These dragons seem to absorb energy to strengthen themselves, but solid projectiles. That's what I was thinking too. Elena agreed. Railguns, missile systems, projectile weapons. things that can't be absorbed or turned against us. Dr. Harrison was examining the alien ship designs. Some of these vessels used physical armor instead of energy shields. If we could reverse engineer their metallurgy, Elena felt a spark of hope. Dr. Chen found something else. Several alien species had developed prototype weapons specifically designed to fight the Draconians. We have their incomplete blueprints. Chen activated another display. Particle beam weapons that disrupt bioelectrical systems. Quantum resonance bombs that interfere with organic matter. Even some kind of neural feedback weapon that was supposed to cause pain to telepathic beings. Admiral Zhang stood up. I need to brief the Global Defense Council immediately. If this threat is real, every nation needs to contribute everything they have. President Santos nodded. I'll coordinate with the civilian manufacturing sectors. We'll need to convert peaceful industries to military production. Dr. Harrison was already making plans. I'll establish research teams at every major university and laboratory. We need to crack this lifelock technology as fast as possible. Elena felt a weight lift from her shoulders. They believed her. Earth would fight back. Over the next few weeks, the planet transformed into a massive military-industrial complex. Every television and internet broadcast carried updates on the preparation efforts. The discovery of alien civilizations and the approaching threat united humanity in a way that nothing else ever had. In the shipyards above Earth's orbit, construction crews worked around the clock building new warships. The designs were revolutionary, combining human engineering with technology reverse-engineered from the alien graveyard. Each ship was armed with railguns that could fire projectiles at near-light speed and protected by armor alloys that had taken other civilizations centuries to develop. Dr. Harrison's research teams made rapid progress on the lifelock technology. The principle was complex but achievable, creating an energy field that prevented bioenergy extraction. The first successful test sent cheers through laboratories around the world. Elena found herself promoted to admiral and placed in charge of tactical planning. She studied every alien log, every failed battle, every strategy that had been tried against the Draconians. Most importantly, she studied what had worked, even temporarily. The Zephyrians lasted 6 hours against a Draconian assault, she told her planning staff. They used rotating shield frequencies and hit-and-run tactics. The hegemony lasted 12 hours by using swarm attacks with small, fast ships. Admiral Zhang joined the tactical meetings regularly. Our advantage is that we know what doesn't work. We won't waste time on ineffective strategies. Elena brought up a new display showing Earth's growing defensive fleet. We're building ships specifically designed to fight biotechnological enemies. Heavy armor, kinetic weapons, lifelock generators, and quantum-encrypted communications that can't be disrupted by bioenergy fields. The preparation efforts accelerated as long-range sensors detected the approaching Draconian fleet. The energy signatures were massive, confirming the worst fears about the size of the Armada heading toward Earth. Dr. Chen, now leading the Xenobiology Research Division, made regular reports on Draconian capabilities. Based on the alien logs, individual Draconian ships can regenerate damage by consuming stellar energy. They're intelligent, telepathic, and completely ruthless. They see other species as nothing more than food. Elena studied the star charts showing the Draconians' approach. How many ships? At least 300 large vessels plus an unknown number of smaller craft. The energy signatures suggest some ships are over 10 kilometers long. Admiral Zhang calculated the odds. We'll have maybe 200 ships ready when they arrive. Most will be smaller than their largest vessels. Elena looked at the faces around the conference table. Military officers, scientists, engineers, all working desperately to save their species. Numbers don't matter if we can hurt them. Every other civilization tried to match the Draconians' strength. We're going to use their weaknesses against them. She activated a tactical display showing Earth's solar system. They expect us to meet them in open space like every other species did. Instead, we're going to fight them here, in our own system, using every advantage we can create. Dr. Harrison reported the latest breakthrough in defensive technology. We've successfully integrated lifelock generators into personal armor. Our troops will be immune to bioenergy drain weapons. That's something no other civilization achieved. Elena felt the first real hope she'd experienced since discovering the graveyard. How many units? Enough to outfit our entire military force, plus reserves. If they want to take our life energy, they'll have to do it the old-fashioned way. Admiral Zhang smiled grimly. hand-to-hand combat against humans. They might be surprised at how good we are at that. Elena stood up and looked out the window at Earth's blue skies. Somewhere beyond those skies, an ancient evil was approaching with the hunger of millennia. But Earth would be ready. How much time do we have left? She asked. Chen checked his calculations. 3 months, Admiral. Maybe less, Elena nodded. Then we'd better make them count. The Draconian Armada emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the solar system, like a nightmare made real. Admiral Elena Vasquez watched from the bridge of the UES Defiance as hundreds of massive shapes materialized in the darkness beyond Pluto's orbit. "Dear God," whispered Lieutenant Kim, who was now serving as Elena's communications officer. "They really do look like dragons." Elena stared at the tactical display in horrified fascination. The Draconian ships were not mechanical constructs, but living creatures of impossible size. Each one resembled an enormous dragon floating in space, their scales glowing with absorbed stellar energy. The largest vessel, positioned at the center of the formation, was the size of a small moon. "Energy readings are off the charts," reported Chief Rodriguez from his engineering station. "Those scales are collecting radiation from our sun and converting it to bioenergy. They're literally feeding on starlight." Admiral Zhang's voice crackled over the communication system from his flagship. "All ships maintain formation. Wait for my command." Elena studied the enemy fleet through her ship's sensors. The aliens had arranged themselves in a hunting formation that they had probably used for thousands of years. Large ships in the center, smaller craft spreading out to surround the solar system. It was the same pattern described in the alien logs. "Incoming transmission," Kim announced. "It's on all frequencies, all languages." Elena nodded. "Put it through." The voice that filled the bridge was like the sound of mountains grinding together. It spoke in perfect English, though Elena knew it was probably communicating with every species it had ever encountered simultaneously. "Inhabitants of the third planet, we are the Draconian Empire. For 3,000 years we have consumed the life essence of 43 civilizations. You will surrender your life energy willingly, and your death will be swift. Resist and we will feast upon your agony for centuries." Elena activated her ship's communication system. She had prepared for this moment during the long months of Earth's mobilization. "This is Admiral Elena Vasquez of the United Earth Defense Force. We've seen what you did to the others. We've studied your tactics, your weapons, your methods. We know exactly what you are." She paused, looking around at her bridge crew. Every face showed determination mixed with fear. "You're parasites. Ancient, hungry parasites that feed on the life force of others, because you're too weak to create anything yourselves. You've grown fat and lazy consuming civilizations that didn't know you were coming." Elena's voice grew stronger. "But we know you're coming. We've prepared for you, and here's our answer to your ultimatum. Come and take it." The response was immediate. The smaller Draconian ships began moving toward the inner solar system, their bioluminescent scales pulsing with hungry anticipation. Elena could see weapon ports opening along their serpentine bodies, revealing organic cannons that glowed with deadly energy. "All ships," Admiral Zhang's voice commanded, "engage at will. Remember your training. Remember what we're fighting for." The battle began at the orbit of Neptune. Earth's fastest ships met the advancing Draconians with waves of kinetic projectiles fired from magnetic railguns. The solid metal slugs moved at nearly light speed, too fast for the bioships to dodge. Elena watched with satisfaction as the first Draconian ship took multiple hits. The creature ship's scales cracked and bled, spilling luminous fluids into space. But instead of dying, the wounded dragon began to regenerate, its scales reforming as it absorbed energy from nearby stars. "They're healing themselves," Rodriguez reported. Just like the alien logs described, Elena had expected this. "Target their weapon ports with concentrated fire. Don't let them return to full strength." The UES Defiance opened fire with all railguns, sending a stream of projectiles into the wounded Draconian ship. The solid rounds punched through regenerating scales, tearing into the creature's internal organs. This time the damage was too severe for immediate healing. Around the solar system, similar battles erupted as Earth's fleet engaged the Draconian advance forces. The humans used hit-and-run tactics, firing from long range and then withdrawing before the bioships could respond with their deadly breath weapons. But the Draconians quickly adapted to human tactics. Elena watched in horror as a group of smaller dragon ships surrounded the UES Courage, one of Earth's newest vessels. The bioships breathed concentrated beams of energy that melted through the human ship's armor like tissue paper. Courage is venting atmosphere, Kim reported. They're requesting immediate assistance. Elena wanted to help, but her tactical training held her back. Negative. All ships maintain safe distance from Draconian breath weapons. We can't afford to lose ships to rescue attempts. The Courage exploded in a ball of fire and debris. Elena closed her eyes briefly, knowing that 300 humans had just died. But this was exactly the kind of loss that had doomed other civilizations. They had tried to save everyone and lost everything. Admiral, Rodriguez called. The big one is moving. Elena looked at the tactical display and felt her blood freeze. The massive flagship at the center of the Draconian fleet was advancing toward Earth. It was larger than anything humanity had ever built. A living mountain that radiated power and malevolent intelligence. All ships, converge on the flagship, Admiral Zhang ordered. If we can destroy their command vessel, the smaller ships might be disrupted. Elena watched as Earth's entire fleet moved to intercept the massive bioship. Their weapons opened fire simultaneously, creating a storm of kinetic projectiles that struck the creature's scales like metallic rain. The flagship absorbed the impacts without visible damage. Its scales were thicker than those of the smaller ships, layered like armor that had evolved over millennia. Worse, Elena could see weapon ports opening along its massive body. Hundreds of organic cannons that glowed with barely contained energy. All ships, evasive maneuvers, she commanded, but it was too late. The flagship breathed death across the solar system. Streams of bioenergy erupted from its weapon ports, reaching across millions of kilometers to strike human vessels. Ship after ship disappeared in bursts of consuming light. Elena watched the UES Britannia, Admiral Zhang's flagship, take a direct hit from the creature's breath. The energy beam didn't just destroy the ship, it seemed to unravel it on a molecular level, reducing hull and crew to basic particles that were absorbed into the Draconian weapon. Admiral Zhang is gone, Kim reported quietly. Command is transferring to you. Elena felt the weight of humanity's survival settle on her shoulders. Half their fleet was already destroyed, and they had barely damaged the enemy flagship. Around the solar system, the smaller Draconian ships were advancing toward Earth, their scales glowing brighter as they fed on the energy released by destroyed human vessels. But Elena had one advantage that no other civilization had possessed. She knew exactly how every previous battle had ended. She had studied 43 defeats in detail, and she had prepared a response that no one had tried before. All remaining ships, she broadcast. Implement Protocol 7. Repeat, implement Protocol 7. Around the solar system, the surviving human vessels began a coordinated withdrawal toward Earth. The Draconians, sensing victory, pursued eagerly. Their formation loosened as they spread out to surround the retreating humans. Elena watched the tactical display as the enemy ships moved into position. The Draconians were following the same pattern they had used for thousands of years. The same tactics that had destroyed every civilization they had encountered. Rodriguez, are the quantum resonance mines armed? Armed and ready, Admiral. Elena looked at the approaching enemy fleet. In a few minutes, they would pass through the asteroid belt where Earth's engineers had been working secretly for months. Hidden among the rocks were devices based on alien technology that no previous civilization had been able to complete. Kim, open a channel to all human vessels. Channel open, Admiral. Elena took a deep breath. All ships, all stations, all personnel. This is Admiral Vasquez. In 30 seconds, we're going to find out if 43 civilizations died for something. If we fail here, we'll join them in extinction. But if we succeed, we'll be the first species in 3,000 years to make the Draconians bleed. She watched the countdown timer on her display. 10 seconds to detonation. All ships brace for quantum resonance wave. Elena pressed the activation button. Now. The quantum resonance mines detonated in a chain reaction that lit up the asteroid belt like a second sun. Admiral Elena Vasquez watched from the bridge of the UES Defiance as waves of disruptive energy washed over the advancing Draconian fleet. The effect was immediate and devastating. The smaller bioships writhed in space as their organic systems were overwhelmed by quantum interference. Their glowing scales flickered and dimmed. Several ships lost control and crashed into asteroids, their regenerative abilities disrupted by the resonance field. It's working, Chief Rodriguez shouted over the alarms. The quantum field is interfering with their bioelectrical systems. Elena felt a moment of fierce satisfaction, but the massive flagship continued its advance toward Earth. Seemingly unaffected by the quantum mines, its scales were too thick, its biosystems too well protected. The creature that served as the Draconians' command ship was ancient and powerful, beyond human comprehension. "All ships concentrate fire on the flagship's weapon ports," Elena commanded. "Don't let it reach Earth." The remaining human vessels opened fire with everything they had. Kinetic projectiles hammered the flagship's scales while electromagnetic pulse weapons disrupted its sensory organs. For the first time, Elena saw the massive creature show signs of damage. Several weapon ports closed as biotissue was torn away by the concentrated assault. But the flagship's response was terrible to behold. It opened its massive jaws and breathed a stream of pure death toward Earth. The bioenergy beam was so powerful that it ionized everything in its path, creating a tunnel of destruction through space itself. Elena watched in horror as the beam struck Earth's orbital defense platforms. The massive weapon satellites simply vanished, their metal and crews consumed by the Draconian flagship's hunger. The creature was preparing to do the same thing to Earth itself. "Admiral," Lieutenant Kim called urgently, "we're receiving a transmission from the surface. It's Dr. Chen." Elena accepted the communication. Chen's voice was filled with desperate excitement. "Admiral, we've completed the lifelock feedback array. If we can get close enough to the flagship, we can transmit the accumulated consciousness of every species they've consumed back into their biomatrix." Elena understood immediately. "You're talking about a psychic feedback loop. Use their own victims against them." "Exactly. But the transmitter has to be placed directly against the flagship's hull. Someone has to get inside that thing." Elena looked at the tactical display. The flagship was surrounded by smaller bioships and protected by layers of energy fields. Getting close enough for a boarding action would be suicide, but it might be their only chance. "Prepare a boarding shuttle," Elena ordered. "I'm going in personally." Rodriguez turned from his station. "Admiral, that's insane. The radiation levels alone will kill you before you reach the hull." Elena was already moving toward the shuttle bay. "Our lifelock suits will protect us from bioenergy drain. And somebody has to do it." She gathered a small team of volunteers. Rodriguez for technical expertise, Kim for communications, and 6 Marines trained in zero-gravity combat. Each wore the advanced lifelock armor that had been developed from alien technology. The boarding shuttle was a small, fast craft designed for stealth operations. Elena piloted it personally, using the debris from destroyed ships as cover while approaching the massive flagship. The bioship's scales were so large that individual plates were bigger than their entire shuttle. "There," Rodriguez pointed to a section where their weapons had damaged the flagship's hull. "We can get through that breach." Elena guided the shuttle through the torn scales and into the flagship's interior. What they found inside was beyond anything human imagination had prepared them for. The corridors were not built but grown, organic passages that pulsed with bioluminescent light. The air was thick and humid, filled with strange organic scents. "Life signs everywhere," Kim reported, scanning with her instruments. "This thing is alive from the molecular level up." They moved deeper into the bioship, following Rodriguez's scanner toward what he believed was the central nervous system. The passages branched and twisted like blood vessels, and Elena had the disturbing sensation that they were walking through the body of a living god. "Contact ahead," one of the Marines reported. Elena saw them then, individual Draconians moving through their ship's corridors. They were smaller than their vessels but still massive, each one the size of an earth dragon from ancient mythology. Their scales shimmered with absorbed energy, and their eyes burned with ancient intelligence. The Draconians attacked immediately, breathing streams of bioenergy at the human intruders. But the lifelock armor worked perfectly. The energy beam struck the humans and simply dissipated, unable to drain their life force. Elena fired her kinetic rifle at the nearest Draconian. The solid projectiles punched through scales that had been proof against energy weapons for millennia. The creature roared in pain and surprise, dark blood flowing from wounds that would not heal. "They're not used to being hurt," Kim observed as they fought their way deeper into the ship. The firefight continued through twisted corridors filled with biomechanical systems that pulsed and writhed around them. Elena's team moved with purpose, following Rodriguez's scanner toward the flagship's central consciousness. Finally, they reached a vast chamber at the heart of the bioship. What Elena saw there made her understand the true horror of what they were fighting. The walls were covered with organic pods, each one containing the compressed life essence of an entire civilization. Thousands of voices whispered in alien languages, the consciousness of every species the Draconians had consumed over 3 millennia. "My God," Rodriguez whispered, "they're all still alive in there. Every individual from every civilization. The Draconians haven't just been killing them. They've been collecting them." At the center of the chamber was a massive organic brain, easily 50 meters across. Neural pathways thick as tree trunks connected it to every part of the flagship. This was the controlling consciousness of the Draconian Empire, the ancient entity that had been consuming civilizations since before human history began. Elena felt a psychic pressure pressing against her mind as the entity became aware of their presence. Images flashed through her consciousness. Planets consumed, species enslaved. The slow death of entire galaxies as the Draconians spread their hunger across the universe. "Set up the transmitter," Elena ordered, fighting against the mental assault. Rodriguez and Kim worked frantically to position the lifelock feedback device against the organic brain. The entity's psychic attacks grew stronger, trying to crush their minds with the weight of accumulated evil. But the lifelock technology protected them from mental as well as physical energy drain. "Ready," Rodriguez announced. "But Admiral, this is going to hurt that thing in ways we can't imagine. It might destroy the entire flagship." Elena thought of Earth defenseless behind them. She thought of the 43 civilizations that had died screaming in the void. She thought of the voices whispering from the organic pods around them. "Do it." Rodriguez activated the transmitter. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. 3,000 years of accumulated suffering, rage and desperation erupted from the organic pods and slammed into the central consciousness. Every species the Draconians had consumed suddenly found their voice again, screaming their fury at their captors. The organic brain convulsed as it was overwhelmed by the psychic feedback. The neural pathways began to rupture, spilling luminous fluid across the chamber floor. Throughout the flagship, biosystems began to fail as the controlling consciousness lost its grip on the ship's functions. Elena felt the floor beneath her feet begin to buckle. "Everyone out! This whole ship is coming apart." They ran through corridors that were now collapsing around them. Organic walls split open, releasing clouds of toxic gases. Bioluminescent panels flickered and died as the flagship's nervous system destroyed itself. Behind them, Elena could hear the sound of the central brain tearing itself apart, unable to process the accumulated agony it had absorbed over millennia. The screams of 43 civilizations had finally found their target. The team reached their shuttle just as the flagship's hull began to rupture. Elena piloted them away from the dying bioship, watching through the viewports as the massive creature writhed in its death throes. The psychic feedback spread through the Draconian fleet like a virus. Bioships that had been connected to the flagship's consciousness suddenly found themselves overwhelmed by the rage of their victims. Some turned on each other, ancient hunger replaced by confused fury. Others simply shut down, their controlling intelligence shattered by psychic overload. "Admiral," Kim reported, "the smaller ships are retreating. The ones that can still function are jumping to hyperspace." Elena watched the surviving Draconians flee the solar system. For the first time in 3,000 years, the ancient predators had encountered prey that could fight back effectively. More importantly, they had learned that their victims could turn their own methods against them. "How many got away?" Elena asked. Rodriguez checked his sensors. Maybe 30 ships out of over 300. And they're all damaged. Elena opened a communication channel to the surviving human vessels. "All ships, this is Admiral Vasquez. The Draconian flagship has been destroyed. The enemy fleet is in retreat. Earth is safe." The cheers that erupted over the communication system were almost deafening. Elena smiled, but her expression quickly turned serious. "Begin search and rescue operations for any survivors, and prepare teams to investigate the wreckage of that flagship. We need to understand everything about Draconian technology." Over the following months, human scientists studied the remains of the bioships and the organic pods that had contained the consciousness of extinct civilizations. Using Draconian biotechnology, they began the slow process of attempting to restore some of the absorbed species to physical form. Elena found herself promoted to Supreme Admiral of the newly formed Galactic Defense Force. Her mission was to seek out other surviving civilizations and unite them against any remaining Draconian ships. As she stood in her new office overlooking Earth's restored orbital facilities, Elena reflected on what humanity had accomplished. They had not just saved themselves, they had broken a cycle of predation that had dominated the galaxy for millennia. "Admiral," Kim announced from the communication station, "we're receiving signals from the Kepler system. It looks like some of their civilization survived in hidden colonies." Elena smiled. "Open a channel. Let them know they're not alone anymore." She looked out at the stars, knowing that somewhere among them were other species waiting for rescue, other civilizations ready to rebuild what had been lost. The galaxy had been silent for too long. "This is Admiral Elena Vasquez of the United Earth Defense Force," she said into the communication system. "To any surviving civilizations receiving this message, the Draconian Empire has been defeated. You are no longer alone. Humanity remembers the 43 species that fell before us, and we're coming to help you rebuild." Elena paused, looking at the memorial wall that now listed every known civilization destroyed by the Draconians. No more silent graveyards. No more unanswered distress calls. The galaxy belongs to the living again,